Hey folks, Elia here. Just wanted to give a quick overview about comic books and graphic novels, how they might be briefly used in the classroom, and then also how we can read them for some of us who maybe have never read comics or graphic novels before. So, um, the first thing I want to do is talk about why I'm doing this. Why, as a math teacher, talking about how to read comics and graphic novels. So, from 2010 to 2018. I was either the executive director or the director of education of a Denver-based nonprofit called Pop Culture Classroom. We put on Denver Comic Con, we founded that, and then used the proceeds in order to generate, innovate, design, implement all sorts of cool pop culture based education programs, largely focused around comics and graphic novels as well as games. I was invited to do a TED talk on the benefits of comics in the classroom, and got to work in all different sites, jails, prisons, classrooms, halfway houses, a lot of different really, really cool facilities. So I know a little bit about comics and graphic novels and like to use them for a variety of purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in. And some of you might be saying, how am I supposed to read a comic or graphic novel? I've never done it before. Do I focus on the pictures? Do I focus on the words? Do I have to take it all in at one time? And the answer is that there's no real right or wrong way to read a comic book. You kind of go about it as you would experience a piece of artwork. Um, some people will do a picture walk and they will pick up a book and just flip through it and look at the pictures page after page after page and not really pay much attention to the dialogue at all. Other people will just focus on the text because that's what they're familiar with when they read. That's totally fine. And sort of the images in the background will come as ancillary support. And then other people will try to focus on both. They'll read the pictures and then the text, and the text, and then they'll look at the pictures and just take their time and absorb it all. And one of my favorite ways to read it is actually I will focus on the text and then I'll go back and read it a second time and give myself pause to really focus on the text and the image connection. For some reason, that just works for my brain. And then occasionally I find myself just lingering over certain pictures and wondering why the artists, the creators were doing, making the choices that they were making. So give yourself permission to just read it however you want and don't feel like you have to focus on one thing in particular or do it right, if you will. So nothing to worry about with that regard. So moving on from there, one of the things that wanted to talk to you about was why are comics great for 21st century learners? And I include us in that as well as our book club. So this quote is great. Art Spiegelman was the creator of Mouse, which was in fact the first graphic novel to win the Pulitzer for literacy. Actually didn't win it for literacy, won it for artwork. I think I got to check on that. Now I'm self-doubting. But this quote is fantastic because it says, and I want to draw your attention down to the bottom. Comics are highly charged medium, delivering densely concentrated information in relatively few words, simplified code images. And this is my favorite part of the quote here. It seems that this is a model of how the human brain formulates thoughts and remembers. We think in cartoons. And I love that so much because it seems like it's a fantastic descriptor of graphic novels. Really great in terms of just understanding why they work so well, because I think that, at least in my brain, I can speak from first person, there's that blend of imagery and whether it's text or whether it's voiceover or whatever it is, that's how my brain works. And I've gotten feedback from a lot of other people. Mouse is a graphic novel about Art Spiegelman's parents. They were Jews in Europe during World War II. They went through all of the horrors and the atrocities and survived. And the book is about their journey as well as their journey's impact on Art's life and childhood and adulthood and all of the generational trauma. It's an incredibly powerful book. And if you haven't read it, when you have time and space in your heart, I would encourage you to do that. So moving on from there, I want to talk now a little bit about some of the different techniques that are used as artists build their graphic novels. One of the things that's that's challenging a little bit is that graphic novels can take years to make, from the script writing to the panel layout to these pencils to the design to the inking and the colors. And sometimes I forget about that when I read and I blow through a book in an hour and I enjoy it and then think, okay, I can move on to the next thing. And I just try to remember that in order to honor the work that the artist has done, the writer and all of that, the team of people working together to make it possible. So this slide here is a slide that I used to use in workshops. We have layout A, B, and C from left to right here. And just take a look at these for a second and just notice, if you want to pause the video, I'm going to talk about the different layouts in terms of good, better, and best, and why that's the case. So if you want to pause the video, I'm going to talk about them in 3, 2, and 1. All right, so hopefully you had a chance to just pause the video and look at some of these and try to figure out what you think is good, better, and best and why. The image on the left, I think you can see my cursor, I hope, is it kind of works in a sense that it tells us we will start up here on the left and work over here, and then we come down here, and then we'll come over here, look at this panel, and kind of work through the 3 stacked panels here in order to kind of get moving through the panel. So kind of getting a sense of what's going on there. Layout B, we start up here, and then it's a little bit confusing because we think that we should go over to this panel here, but then where do we go after that? Usually we read left to right, top to bottom, but if we're here, then do we go to here or do we go over to here? Because this panel here is taller or is higher up on the page than this panel over here. So how can we know which one to read? And then once we're here, do we go down to here because it's slightly below and to the left, or do we go over to here, or do we go over to here? So this panel layout is really confusing. The artist who chose to do this, not a great idea. We call this, when we have panels like this that are the same size stacked on top of each other, we call that a stack. And it's a really poor choice for the artist to generate a stack on the left side of the page because the reader doesn't know what they're supposed to do. It can be really confusing. And from somebody who now knows this, like I've been looking at comics and reading them for my whole life, it's really frustrating. Like there are, Disney has produced and published Marvel Comics versions of Star Wars books, like one of their top selling books. And I've found books that have stacks on the left side of the page. So it's something that should be obvious, but even professional artists kind of let it slip and they don't use it to the best of the ability. Same thing from here. Do we go to here? Do we go to there? Do I come back down here and read in sequence? Do I come down to here? And then I'm assuming this is the last panel, but I don't know. And then if we come up here to layout C, we start up here, we move over to the right. And then it's very obvious that we come down here to the left and then we move over to the right again, just like we would with a normal book, come down to the left again to the big panel, and then over here to the final one. So in this case, we can see that layout C is the best and most easiest to follow with the eye, most easiest, I said that. And then A would be kind of the mediocre one, with B being the poor choice as well. When we teach this, we designed a curriculum so that in this particular set, you can pause this and read this, but basically the idea of it is that the boy wakes up and he is looking for his backpack, coming down the stairs, and then he makes the bus with time to spare in the best panel. We share each of these with students who are trying to understand panel layout. In B, the worst one, he does the same thing. He's trying to find his backpack, but then he misses the bus because it's confusing and he doesn't have time to actually get there. And then in A, with a mediocre one, he finds his backpack and then he makes the bus just in time. So there's also storytelling cues that give the students the idea of which one is good, better, and best as well. And then before I move on from there, I want to talk to you a little bit about, I blacked out the panels for a particular reason, just to focus on the layout of them. But what I also want to do now is I want to talk about what happens inside the panels, because there's a significant amount of artistic design and choice that goes on when people know what they're doing. And I wanted to talk about this so that maybe you could look for it in the book that we're reading together in our book club. So let's talk about layout C here, and the best one first. So right away, we jump in and we see the character is facing us. And then the screech is drawing our eye over to the right side of the panel and bringing it over here. oh my gosh, the bus, and then mom, where's my backpack? Now, what the artist did in this panel, if you notice, is that the perspective of the panel, the bed, his hand, everything is drawing your eye in this direction here, and that's intentional. We read Screech, we read the first speech bubble up here, we come around here, and then our eye is naturally drawn down and to the left. And that's a visual trick that artists use to tell you visually where the next panel is. We come down here to the third panel, and we see the lines in this panel from the stairs and his movement coming down the stairs and drawing our eye towards the backpack in the bottom right corner of the panel. Same thing as we move down the stairs, we read the text and we see that the text is drawing us to the next panel. Same exact thing is happening here. Look, there's the bus, the perspective in the bus, and the lines of the bus are pointing us down towards the bottom left panel. And we see his movement rushing out of the door, down the steps, and drawing our eye both towards the bus and towards the last panel of the page. So all of the tips and tricks that are going on in here in this particular comic are designed and drawn with intentionality. Those are some really high quality things that not every comic artist knows, and they're fun to pay attention to. And then if we flip that and we look at the worst one, we see here that there's the Screech, and then the second panel is shorter. If you notice, it's not as tall as the first one. So our eyes are drawn right back to the first panel. That doesn't tell us which way to go visually. Same thing here. If we come down to here, Mom, where's my backpack? The banister draws us down here to this panel. And that means we skip all of these three panels here. I don't see it. The lines in this are unclear. The only thing really pointing us in a direction is the boy's shadow down to the bus. But then the lines in the bus are all kind of blocky. They're horizontal. There's a little bit of a curve here, but it doesn't really point us towards the backpack panel. And then here again, got it, bye, Mom. And then we see this. It kind of draws our eyes off the page. And then we would have to come back down here, and the bus is driving away. So a lot of visual clutter in layout B that doesn't really draw our eye through the artistic work as much as possible. And then finally A, what we've got here, we go through, same thing. The stairs are pointing upwards. They're not drawing our eye down and to the next panel. So a poor artistic choice here of perspective. Again, it was the artist intended to do this so that it would draw your eye up and away so you wouldn't see quality things. And then down here, got it, Mom, bye. The artist drew the eyes and the backpack, the lines of his hand coming down this way, drawing us towards the bottom panel. So visually, we have to then turn our eyes up. The lines in the bus are pointing us back towards this panel. And then, the second to last and the last panel don't really have any visual synthesis to them, drawing us from one panel to the other. So some really cool cues that you can notice as you're looking through. I've got one more slide that I want to share. And then this is a page, two-page spread from a book called El Deafo, and it was written by a woman named Cece Bell. It's an autobiographical comic about a woman who lost her hearing. She unfortunately got, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the word. The virus that goes into the spine and causes significant disease, typically in the springtime. She got that. You probably know what I'm talking about. And then she lost her hearing, unfortunately. And so she went through her life with this gigantic hearing device. So a couple things I want to draw your attention to here. We read the text across the top, and then we go down to Cece with the shirt and the pencil. And she's literally pointing where we're supposed to be looking next. We read the caption box across the top, and we see this here, kind of talking about, I will gain the wisdom of ages. The teacher is pointing towards 1492. Come down here, and we see into the hallway, go straight to the principal's office. But then the thing that's really interesting is that our eye comes down here to the thought bubble, right? See this thought bubble? We read that, and we come up across as well. Teacher is in the bathroom with the microphone on, so she's hearing them yell there. She's hearing the teacher go to the bathroom because the teacher still has the microphone on. And then we come down here and we see kind of the lines in this panel are pointing upwards and towards the end of it here. Holy hearing aid, Batman. And then we can even see Batman's posture is leaning up into the back, kind of pointing our eye upwards towards the next page. This panel, this big splash panel here that we call, I really want to draw your attention to. So we see there's a couple things that really are intentional art decisions. Clearly, Cece is the main focus of this panel. She's really big, but we can see all of the lines in this panel visually. The line in the hedge, even the kids are kind of pointing towards Cece, as well as over here, while this hula hooper's arms aren't pointing towards Cece, her pigtails are. They're pointing towards so visually, they're drawing our attention. The arc of this boy's ears, or everything is kind of drawing our attention towards Cece, as well as a couple other things. You might see the stars, the lines in Cece are pointing our eye towards her, as well as this gentle curve on the bottom of the page. All of those things are designed to draw our attention and focus towards Cece as the main character, sort of being celebrated in this particular panel. So really cool artistic choice here as well. You can also notice that the colors down here for the three characters, they are muted. Even the whites are not as bright as the white of Cece's shirt. So drawing our attention towards those particular elements as well. And then again, hey, what are those things doing in your ears? Are you deaf? Again, pointing at visual art, pointing towards that. The focus here, drawing from this character, and then drawing your eye towards Cece as well, and then getting her to pop out of her stupor. And then if you notice too, the color of her face in this panel, as well as her shirt, they're not the same. So her face is brighter when she's feeling proud of herself. Down here, the tone is a little bit more muted. Obviously, her facial expression and her t-shirt, she's not the superheroine that she imagines herself to be. So some really cool artistic choices that, we draw our eyes towards each different thing as it moves through the panel, and across and across and across again. So there you go. I hope that was helpful, and look forward to hearing what you come up with and things that you notice when we meet in a couple weeks. Take care.